Kim Taiho sat in his small apartment, staring at the television screen with his mouth hanging open. He had just finished his evening meal and was planning to work on some engineering designs. Instead, he found himself watching the most bizarre news broadcast of his entire life. The alien ambassador stood at the podium in the United Nations building. Her skin was silver, and her three eyes blinked in sequence as she spoke. Behind her, the holographic display showed the Galactic Coalition symbol, a circle of stars representing hundreds of alien worlds. According to Article 47, Section 12 of the Integration Treaty, the ambassador said in perfect Korean through the translator device, all human males between the ages of 20 and 40 must enter bonding contracts with 3 female citizens of coalition member species. Taiho dropped his chopsticks. They clattered against his bowl, sending rice scattering across the table. His cat Mochi looked up at him with annoyed eyes before returning to her grooming. The ambassador continued speaking, but Taiho could barely hear her words over the ringing in his ears. Marriage, 3 alien women? This had to be a joke. Some kind of elaborate prank show. He grabbed his phone and started searching the internet. Within seconds, he realized it was real. Every news site in the world was exploding with the same story. His phone started buzzing with messages from friends and family. His mother sent 17 messages in 30 seconds, all asking if he had seen the news. His best friend Minho sent a single message that just said, "Are you seeing this?" Taiho read through the official documents that had been posted online. The treaty was real. Earth had signed it 3 years ago during first contact with the Galactic Coalition. At the time, human representatives had been so excited about joining the galactic community that they had rushed through the paperwork. Nobody had bothered to read the fine print carefully. Nobody had understood what genetic integration protocols actually meant in alien culture. The reason behind the law was complicated. Several alien species in the coalition were dying out. Their populations were shrinking and their genetics had become too similar. They needed fresh genetic material to survive. Humans, being new to the galaxy, had something called genetic diversity that was apparently very rare. The aliens saw this as a practical solution. They also believed it would help humans integrate into galactic society faster. To the aliens, it made perfect sense. To Taiho, it was insane. He spent the next 3 hours reading every article, every analysis, every legal opinion he could find. Lawyers around the world were scrambling to find loopholes. Politicians were arguing about sovereignty and human rights. Religious leaders were debating the morality of the situation. Protesters were gathering in major cities, but the bottom line was clear and brutal. If human men refused to comply, Earth would be expelled from the Galactic Coalition. That meant losing access to all alien technology. No more advanced medicine that had cured cancer and countless other diseases. No more clean energy systems that had solved global warming. No more protection from hostile alien species that existed in the darker corners of the galaxy. Earth would be alone again, but now with knowledge that they were weak and vulnerable in a universe full of powerful civilizations, the choice was simple and horrible. Comply or be abandoned. Taiho felt sick to his stomach. He worked as a mechanical engineer at the Earth Galactic Technology Exchange Center. His job was to study alien machines and figure out how they worked. He loved his job. He loved learning about different types of technology. He was finally starting to understand some of the principles behind faster-than-light travel. His dream was to design the first human-made FTL engine, but now he was supposed to get married to 3 complete strangers from different planets? How was that supposed to work? Where would they live? His apartment was barely big enough for himself and Mochi. What did aliens even eat? Could they breathe Earth's atmosphere? Did they find humans attractive, or was this as weird for them as it was for him? He looked around his apartment. The place was a mess, as usual. Engineering textbooks were stacked on every surface. Half-finished projects covered his workbench. Dirty clothes were piled in the corner because he kept forgetting to do laundry. His houseplant was probably dead, though he kept watering it hopefully. This was the home of a bachelor who barely took care of himself. How was he supposed to take care of 3 alien wives? Taiho's phone buzzed again. This time it was an official notification from the Coalition Integration Office. His hand shook as he opened it. The message was formal and cold. It informed him that according to the compatibility algorithm, whatever that meant, 3 suitable bonding partners had been selected for him. Their names were listed: Nari of Thalassia, Hana of Pyronus and Yuna of Verdantis. The message included brief descriptions of each species and planet, along with basic biological requirements. The final line of the message made his blood run cold. Your bonding partners will arrive at Incheon Spaceport tomorrow at 14 WAG hours. Please be present for official introduction ceremony. Failure to appear will result in immediate legal action. Tomorrow. They were arriving tomorrow. Taeho stood up and started pacing. Mochi watched him with judgment in her eyes, as if she knew his simple life was about to become impossibly complicated. He thought about his options. He could run away, join the groups of men who were going into hiding, but that seemed cowardly and it would not solve anything. He could protest, refuse, make a stand on principle, but that would hurt Earth's position in the galaxy and might cost millions of people their lives when alien medicine stopped flowing. He could face this impossible situation and try to make the best of it. He stopped pacing and looked at himself in the mirror. He was just an ordinary guy. Average height, average build, nothing special. He fixed machines for a living. He was not a diplomat or a politician or anyone important. Why was this happening to him? But then again, it was happening to millions of human men across the planet. He was not alone in this nightmare. Maybe, somehow, they would all figure it out together. Taeho took a deep breath and made his decision. He would go to the spaceport tomorrow. He would meet these 3 alien women. He would treat them with respect and try to make this work somehow. Not because the law forced him to, but because he refused to let fear control his choices. He looked at Mochi. I guess you're going to have 3 new roommates, he told the cat. Mochi yawned, completely unimpressed with the biggest moment of his life. Taeho barely slept that night. The spaceport was chaos. Taeho stood in the designated waiting area, clutching his translator device so tightly his knuckles had turned white. Around him, hundreds of other Korean men waited for their bonding partners to arrive. Some looked angry. Some looked scared. A few looked curious or even excited. Most just looked confused. Security drones floated overhead, making sure nobody caused trouble. News cameras lined the observation deck above, broadcasting this historic moment to the entire planet. Taeho tried to ignore them. He felt like an animal in a zoo. His phone buzzed with another message from his mother asking if he was okay. He sent back a quick reply, then turned off his phone. He needed to focus. The arrival announcement echoed through the spaceport in multiple languages. The ships were landing. Taeho's heart started racing. He reminded himself to breathe normally. He had spent the morning researching Thalassia, Pyronus, and Verdantis. He had learned the basic greeting customs for each species. He had prepared his apartment as best he could with the limited information available. He was as ready as he could possibly be, which meant he was not ready at all. The first group of aliens walked through the arrival gate. They were tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light. Taeho watched as they were greeted by their assigned human partners. Some meetings looked awkward. Others looked tense. None looked happy. Then he saw her. The first of his bonding partners. Nari was tall, much taller than Taeho had expected. She had to be at least 6 feet. Her skin was a deep blue color that shifted to purple when she moved. It actually glowed faintly, like bioluminescent creatures in Earth's deep oceans. Her eyes were large and dark, and her face was sharp and angular in a way that was both alien and somehow elegant. She wore what appeared to be a military uniform from her world, dark fabric with silver insignia. Her posture was perfectly straight, military precise. She carried a single bag and walked with the confidence of someone who had trained for combat. She stopped in front of Taeho and looked down at him. Her expression was completely neutral. "You are Kim Taeho," she said. It was not a question. Her voice was surprisingly smooth, though the translator gave it a slightly mechanical edge. "Yes," Taeho managed to say. "You must be Nari. Welcome to Earth." She nodded once, sharp and efficient. "I am Officer Nari of the Thalassian Naval Defense Force, 7th rank, decorated in 3 campaigns." She paused. "I assume you have prepared suitable accommodations." Before Taeho could answer, another voice spoke up. "Oh good, you found each other. This place is enormous." Taeho turned to see a much shorter alien walking toward them. This had to be Hana. She barely reached his shoulder, but there was something about her presence that made her seem larger. Her skin was copper-toned and her eyes were bright gold, almost glowing. She wore practical traveling clothes that looked expensive, and she carried 3 large bags with apparent ease despite her small size. "Kim Taiho?" she asked, looking him up and down with an appraising stare. You look exactly average. That is probably good for keeping a low profile." She set down her bags and extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I am Hana, merchant class 3rd generation. I hope your home has proper heating. Earth is terribly cold." Taiho shook her hand, still trying to process everything. "I set up heat lamps in one of the rooms, based on Peronis environmental data." Hana's golden eyes widened slightly. "You did research? How practical?" She smiled for the first time, showing small, sharp teeth. "Perhaps this will not be completely terrible." "Where is the 3rd one?" Nari asked, looking around with military efficiency. Yuna should be arriving on the next transport," Taiho said, checking his phone. "She is coming from the Verdantes system." They had some delay with, "Here, I am here. Sorry. I am so sorry for being late." A small figure rushed toward them, nearly tripping over her own feet. Yuna was the shortest of the 3, even smaller than Hana. Her skin had a faint greenish tint and her hair, if it could be called hair, looked like delicate leaves that moved gently even though there was no wind. Her eyes were large and bright green and her face showed open anxiety. She stopped in front of them, breathing hard. "The transport had technical issues and then I could not find the correct gate. And everything is so confusing and loud and I am very sorry for being late to our first meeting." The words tumbled out of her in a rush. "You are not late," Taiho said gently. "We just arrived ourselves. I am Taiho. This is Nari and Hana." Yuna looked at each of them in turn, then suddenly bowed very low, almost folding herself in half. "I am Yuna. I am a biologist. I study plants and ecosystems. I am very grateful to meet you all, and I promise to try my best not to cause any trouble." There was a long moment of silence. Taiho looked at his 3 bonding partners. They looked at him and each other. Nobody seemed to know what to say. The situation was so bizarre, so awkward that Taiho almost wanted to laugh. "Almost. Okay," he finally said. "I guess we should go to my apartment. It is not very big, but I tried to prepare it for everyone." Getting back to his apartment was an adventure. The subway was crowded with people staring at them. Some humans looked hostile. Others looked curious. The 3 alien women drew attention everywhere they went. Nari ignored everyone with military discipline. Hana stared back at anyone who looked at her until they turned away. Yuna tried to make herself as small as possible, which was difficult because her leaf-like hair kept rustling and catching people's attention. When they finally reached Taiho's apartment building, he felt a moment of deep embarrassment. The building was old and modest. His apartment was on the 5th floor and the elevator was broken. They had to take the stairs. He unlocked the door and stepped inside, suddenly seeing his home through the eyes of 3 aliens from advanced civilizations. The apartment was tiny. The main room served as living room, dining room, and workspace. There was 1 small bedroom, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen that was barely larger than a closet. He had cleaned everything thoroughly and set up special environmental controls in different areas, but it still looked pathetically small. "This is it," he said. "I know it is not much, but it is warm," Hana interrupted, walking immediately to the heat lamps he had set up. She stood under them and closed her eyes with visible relief. "This is good." Nari examined the apartment with a tactical eye, checking the windows and doors. Defensible position. Limited entry points, acceptable. Yuna stood in the doorway, looking overwhelmed. She noticed the houseplant that Taiho had been trying to keep alive. Her eyes lit up. "You have a plant." "Oh, it is struggling, poor thing. It needs different soil and more sunlight." "May I help it?" "Sure," Taiho said, feeling some of the tension ease. "I am terrible with plants." Mochi chose that moment to emerge from the bedroom. The cat looked at the 3 aliens, then at Taiho, then back at the aliens. Her tail puffed up to twice its normal size. "You have a small predator," Yuna said with delight. "How wonderful." "That is a cat," Taiho explained. "Her name is Mochi. She is harmless." Mochi made a sound that suggested she disagreed with the word harmless. They all stood there in the small apartment. 4 beings from 4 different worlds, brought together by a law none of them wanted. The silence stretched out, awkward and heavy. Finally, Taiho spoke. "Listen, I know none of us chose this situation. I know this is strange and uncomfortable for everyone, but we are stuck with each other, at least for now. So maybe we should set some ground rules and figure out how to make this work. Nari nodded slowly. A practical approach. I can respect that. I agree, Hana said. This is essentially a business arrangement. We should treat it professionally. I will try my best, Yuna added quietly. Taiho took a deep breath. Okay then. Let us start with the basics. Where is everyone going to sleep? Looking around the tiny apartment, that seemed like a very good question. The first week was a disaster. Taiho learned very quickly that living with 3 aliens from different worlds meant dealing with 3 completely different sets of needs, habits, and expectations. What seemed normal to one species was bizarre or even offensive to another. The apartment, which had always seemed adequate for one person and a cat, became a complex puzzle of environmental controls, scheduling conflicts, and cultural misunderstandings. Nari woke up every morning at exactly 500 hours. She would spend an hour doing military exercises in the tiny living room, moving through combat forms that looked both beautiful and deadly. The problem was that her exercises shook the floor, which woke up Hana, who needed at least 9 hours of sleep and became extremely irritable when disturbed. Hana, in turn, had the habit of conducting business calls at all hours, because she was trying to coordinate deals across multiple time zones and star systems. She would pace around the apartment, arguing in her native language about shipping costs and tariff rates, keeping Yuna awake. The merchant had an incredible ability to find ways to make money from anything, including trying to sell access to their unique living situation to news organizations. Yuna needed specific light wavelengths for her health. Without them, her skin would lose its green tint and she would become weak. Taiho had set up special lamps, but they hummed constantly and gave off a smell like fresh-cut grass. The smell did not bother him, but it made Nari feel ill. Something about her aquatic biology reacted badly to the plant-based chemicals in the air. The bathroom situation was perhaps the worst. Nari needed to soak in water for at least an hour every day or her skin would dry out painfully. Hana hated moisture and needed to keep herself completely dry, which meant she would spend 30 minutes after every shower meticulously removing every drop of water from the bathroom. Yuna had inadvertently made the bathroom into a mini jungle by trying to improve the air quality. She had touched the walls, and somehow plants had started growing from the tiles. The kitchen was another battlefield. Taiho discovered that what counted as food varied wildly between species. Nari ate mostly raw fish and sea vegetables. Hana preferred things that were heavily spiced and roasted until they were almost burning. Yuna did not eat meat at all and survived on a diet of fruits, vegetables, and a weird paste made from processed plants that smelled terrible to everyone else. Taiho tried his best to cook meals everyone could eat, but it was nearly impossible. He ended up preparing 4 different meals every time, which took hours, plus his cooking skills were basic at best. He had survived on instant noodles and delivery food for most of his adult life. Mochi, the cat, had her own opinions about the new residents. She had claimed Nari's room as her new territory, and would hiss at anyone else who tried to enter. Nari surprisingly did not seem to mind. She said cats reminded her of small aquatic predators from her homeworld. Hana thought Mochi was moderately clever for such a small creature. Yuna was terrified of the cat after Mochi scratched her on the 2nd day. Work became complicated too. Taiho still had to go to his job at the Technology Exchange Center, but now he was constantly distracted wondering what was happening at home. Were his bonding partners getting along? Was anyone burning down the apartment? The first time he came home to find the living room completely rearranged because Nari had decided their defensive positioning was inadequate. He nearly had a breakdown. But the real tension came from the coalition requirements. They were not just supposed to live together. They were supposed to be bonding, getting to know each other, working toward actual relationship development. A coalition inspector was scheduled to visit in 3 weeks to verify that their arrangement was progressing appropriately. Nobody knew what appropriately meant, which was terrifying. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Taiho sat down and called a house meeting. All 3 women gathered in the living room, sitting in different corners as if trying to stay as far apart as possible in the small space. "This is not working," Taiho said bluntly. "We are all miserable. We are getting in each other's way. Something needs to change." "I agree," Hana said immediately. "I have been analyzing our efficiency rates and they are terrible. We are wasting approximately 70% of our time dealing with conflicts that could be avoided with better planning. The living space is inadequate, Nari added. 4 individuals cannot function effectively in such limited quarters without proper structure and discipline. Yuna said nothing, but she looked down at her hands with obvious guilt. Taiho noticed. Yuna, what is wrong? I am the problem, she said quietly. I am not good at this. I am not good at being around people. On my world, I lived alone in the forest most of the time, studying plants. I do not know how to share space. I do not know how to help. I am just causing more trouble for everyone. That is not true, Taiho said firmly. You fixed my plant. It actually looks healthy now, and the air quality in here has improved since you grew those plants in the bathroom. Sure, they look weird, but I feel better breathing in here. My skin condition has also improved, Nari admitted grudgingly. The increased humidity from the plants helps, Hana nodded. And your presence keeps Kim Taeho from overworking himself. He actually takes breaks when you ask him to. Yuna looked up, surprised. Really? Really, Taiho confirmed. Then he turned to the group. Look, I have been thinking about this all wrong. We have been trying to live like we are all the same, but we are not. We are 4 completely different people from 4 different worlds. Maybe instead of fighting our differences, we should use them. Explain, Nari said, leaning forward with interest. Taeho stood up and grabbed a piece of paper. He started sketching quickly. Nari, you are good at organization and structure. Hana, you are good at negotiating and planning. Yuna, you are good at biology and environmental stuff. I'm good at building and fixing things. What if we treat this like an engineering problem? We have resources, that is us. We have limitations, that is the apartment and the law. We have a goal, make this work. So let us design a solution. A team approach, Nari said slowly. Like a military unit, but civilian. A business partnership, Hana added, her golden eyes lighting up with interest. A cooperative ecosystem, Yuna suggested quietly. Exactly, Taiho said, feeling excited for the first time in days. We make rules together. We assign responsibilities based on what each person is good at. We respect each other's needs and boundaries. And we face the coalition as a united team, not 4 separate people forced together. Nari stood up. I can create a schedule that optimizes our activities and minimizes conflicts. With your input, of course. Hana pulled out her tablet. I can handle budgeting and resource management. And I can negotiate with the building owner to possibly rent additional space. My skills are finally useful here. Yuna stood up too, looking more confident. I can manage the environmental controls. And I can try to cook more. I know many plant-based recipes that might work for everyone. And I will upgrade the apartment systems, Taiho said. Better water recycling for Nari. Better heating for Hana. Better lighting for Yuna. I can build custom solutions for each of us. They spent the next 3 hours working together, planning and designing their new approach to shared living. Nari created a detailed schedule that gave everyone private time and space. Hana calculated their budget and found ways to make their resources stretch further. Yuna drew up plans for improving the apartment's environmental systems. Taeho sketched designs for custom modifications to the living space. As they worked, something shifted. The tension eased. They started talking more freely, even laughing occasionally when someone made a joke. Hana told a story about a terrible business deal on her homeworld that had everyone smiling. Nari demonstrated a Thalassian combat move that looked impressive until she accidentally knocked over a lamp. Yuna showed them a small flower she had been growing in secret. It glowed softly in the dark and smelled like honey. Taeho realized they were actually talking to each other like real people instead of awkward strangers. It was a small thing, but it felt important. Late that night, after everyone had gone to their sleeping areas, Taiho sat alone in the living room. Mochi jumped into his lap and started purring. He petted her absently while thinking about the day. They had a long way to go. There would be more conflicts, more misunderstandings, more difficult days ahead. The coalition inspector was still coming. The whole galaxy was still watching to see if this crazy experiment would work. Earth's future still depended on millions of forced arrangements somehow succeeding. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Taiho felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. Not because a law forced them to, but because they chose to try. It was not much, but it was a start. The news came during breakfast. Taiho was attempting to prepare 4 different meals simultaneously, a skill he had been forced to develop over the past month. Nari was reviewing her military history texts. Hana was shouting at someone over her communication device about trade regulations. Yuna was carefully tending to the small garden she had created on the windowsill. Then Hana suddenly stopped talking. She stared at her device, her golden eyes widening. "Everyone, look at this." She projected the news onto the wall. The headline made Taiho's blood run cold. Mass protests turn violent. Thousands of human men refuse bonding decree. The video showed chaos in multiple cities across Earth. In New York, protesters clashed with coalition security forces. In Mumbai, hundreds of men had barricaded themselves in government buildings. In Sao Paulo, entire neighborhoods had declared themselves autonomous zones, refusing to cooperate with coalition authorities. But the worst footage came from Tokyo. A group of men had attempted to hijack a shuttle planning to flee Earth entirely. Coalition forces had stopped them. 3 humans were dead. Dozens more were injured. The apartment fell silent except for the sound of the news anchor's voice. Coalition officials have declared a state of emergency. Earth's government has 48 hours to bring the situation under control or face immediate sanctions. High Commissioner Veloth released a statement saying that humanity's refusal to honor the integration treaty constitutes a breach of galactic law. Taiho felt sick. He turned off the projection. "This is bad," Hana said quietly. "Very bad. If Earth gets sanctioned, the economic damage will be catastrophic." "People are dying," Yuna whispered, her leaf-like hair trembling. "Because of us. Because of this law." "Not because of you," Taiho said firmly. "Because of a stupid law that nobody should have agreed to in the first place." Nari stood up, her military training showing in her rigid posture. "The situation will escalate. Coalition forces do not tolerate civil disobedience. They will increase pressure on Earth's government. More humans will resist. More people will die." She was right, and they all knew it. Over the next 2 days, the situation spiraled out of control. More protests erupted worldwide. Some turned violent. Coalition forces responded with increasing force. Human governments were caught between their own citizens demanding freedom and alien authorities demanding compliance. Social media exploded with debate. Some people supported the protesters, arguing that forced marriage violated basic human rights. Others insisted that Earth had to honor its commitments to avoid galactic isolation. Families were torn apart by the controversy. Friends stopped speaking to each other. The whole planet seemed to be tearing itself apart. Taiho's mother called him every few hours, crying and asking if he was safe. His friends were divided. Some called him a traitor for complying. Others praised him for being responsible. Minho sent him a message that just said, "I'm going into hiding. I can't do this. I'm sorry." On the 3rd day, Taiho received a summons. He was to appear before the Coalition Integration Committee to provide testimony about his bonding arrangement. The message was formal and polite, but the implication was clear. They wanted him to publicly endorse the program, to be an example of successful integration. "You should not go," Nari said immediately when he showed her the summons. "This is a trap. They want to use you for propaganda." "If I refuse, it will make things worse," Taiho argued. "Earth is already on thin ice." "So you will lie for them?" Hana asked sharply. "Pretend everything is wonderful? That is disgusting." "What if I told the truth instead?" Taiho said slowly, an idea forming in his mind. All 3 women stared at him. "Explain," Nari demanded. Taiho stood up and started pacing, the way he did when he was working through a difficult engineering problem. "The Coalition wants me to say the bonding program is great, right? That humans and aliens are happily integrating. But what if I stand up there and tell them exactly what I think? That forcing people into relationships is wrong. That real cooperation has to be voluntary." "They will arrest you," Yuna said, her voice frightened. "They will make an example of you." "Maybe," Taiho admitted. But I have been reading human history. Every time people stood up against unjust laws, it started with someone refusing to stay quiet. Someone saying, no, this is wrong, even when it was dangerous. Human history is full of people who got killed for standing up, Hana pointed out. Yes, but it is also full of people who changed the world by refusing to accept injustice. Taiho looked at each of them. I am not anyone special. I am just an engineer. But maybe that is the point. If an ordinary person speaks up, maybe others will too. Nari crossed her arms, studying him with her dark eyes. You have changed since we met. When we first arrived, you seemed passive, accepting. Now you want to challenge the entire coalition. I learned something from living with you three, Taiho said. Nari, you taught me that honor matters more than following orders blindly. Hana, you showed me that everything is negotiable if you are brave enough to push back. Yuna, you demonstrated that quiet people can have strong principles too. He took a deep breath. I did not choose the situation. None of us did. But I can choose how I respond to it. I can be silent and complicit, or I can stand up and tell the truth, even if it is scary. There was a long silence. Then Nari spoke. If you do this, you will need support. You should not face the committee alone. I agree, Hana said. If you are going to make a scene, you should make it a big one. More impact that way. I want to help too, Yuna added quietly. This law has hurt so many people. My own planet is dying, and we use this program to try to save ourselves. But maybe we were wrong. Maybe there is a better way. You would do this? Taiho asked, surprised. Speak out against your own governments? Our governments put us in this situation, Nari said firmly. They made us part of this system. We share responsibility for fixing it. Hana grinned, showing her sharp teeth. Besides, I have been waiting. For a good reason to tell the coalition exactly what I think of their bureaucracy. This will be fun. The hearing was held in the massive coalition building in Geneva. Thousands of people gathered outside, protesters on both sides, news crews from across the galaxy, security forces maintaining order. Taiho felt his hands shaking as he walked through the entrance. Nari walked on his right side, military straight and confident. Hana was on his left, her golden eyes scanning the crowd like she was calculating profit margins. Yuna walked slightly behind, but she had her shoulders back and her head up. They entered the hearing chamber, and Taiho felt his courage waver. The room was enormous, designed to make individuals feel small. Coalition committee members from dozens of species sat in a semicircle on an elevated platform. Humans made up only a small portion of the observers. This was a galactic court, not a human one. The chairman, a tall being with gray skin and no visible eyes, spoke first. His voice was translated into Korean through Taiho's earpiece. Kim Taiho, you have been called here to provide testimony regarding your bonding arrangement under Article 47 of the Integration Treaty. The committee wishes to understand how the program is proceeding from a human perspective. The chairman paused. We understand that certain difficulties have arisen on Earth. Your cooperation in demonstrating the success of the program would be appreciated. In other words, tell us everything is fine or else. Taiho walked to the testimony platform. His heart was pounding so hard he thought everyone in the room must be able to hear it. He looked up at the committee members staring down at him. He thought about all the men hiding across Earth. The protesters in the streets, the people who had died in Tokyo. He thought about his mother's frightened phone calls, about Minho running away, about living in his cramped apartment with 3 people he never chose to live with, and he thought about the past month. Working together with Nari, Hana, and Yuna, learning about their worlds, sharing meals and stories, building something real out of a forced situation. He cleared his throat and began to speak. Honored committee members, you want to know how the bonding program is working from a human perspective. I will tell you the truth. He saw several committee members lean forward with interest. The program is a violation of everything humans believe about freedom and dignity. Forcing people into relationships, no matter how you justify it, is wrong. It treats people like genetic resources instead of individuals with their own thoughts, dreams, and choices. Shocked whispers spread through the chamber. The chairman's voice cut through them. Kim Tae-ho, you are aware that you are speaking to the Galactic Authority? Yes, I am, Tae-ho said, his voice growing stronger. And you need to hear this. Humans value choice above almost everything else. We have fought wars over the right to make our own decisions. We have died for freedom. You cannot force us into compliance no matter how advanced your technology is. The treaty was signed by your representatives, another committee member said coldly. By representatives who did not understand what they were signing, Tae-ho shot back. That does not make it right. Just because something is legal does not mean it is just. Before the committee could respond, Nari stood up from the observer section. I wish to add testimony. The chairman looked surprised but gestured for her to speak. Nari walked forward with military precision. I am Officer Nari of the Thalassian. The apartment was more crowded than usual. In addition to the 4 regular residents and 1 judgmental cat, there were now 3 Earth officials, 2 coalition liaison officers, and a very nervous translator. Everyone was trying to fit into the tiny living room, and it was not going well. This is completely unacceptable, said one of the Earth officials, a stern woman named Director Choi. Mr. Kim, you have put Earth in an extremely difficult position. The coalition is furious. They are demanding consequences. They are also demanding negotiations, added the younger official, Assistant Director Nam. Your testimony caused an uproar across multiple planets. The coalition cannot ignore it. One of the coalition liaisons, a being with blue crystalline skin, spoke through the translator. The High Council has agreed to consider reforms to Article 47. However, they require proof that alternative approaches can work. Empty words are not enough. What kind of proof? Tae-ho asked warily. He had been expecting arrests, not meetings in his living room. The crystalline alien gestured in a complex pattern that the translator struggled to interpret. The Council proposes a challenge. If you can demonstrate human capability in a matter that has defeated coalition experts, they will take human objections more seriously. If you fail, Earth will face sanctions. That sounds like a trap, Hana said bluntly from her corner of the room where she had been listening with narrowed golden eyes. It is, the alien agreed calmly. But it is also an opportunity. The Council is divided on the human question. Some believe your species is valuable. Others believe you are disruptive chaos that will destabilize the coalition. This challenge will help settle the debate. Director Choi leaned forward. What is the challenge? The second coalition liaison, a tall figure shrouded in flowing fabric, answered. The Nexus Gate. It is an ancient, faster-than-light transportation hub that was built by a long-extinct species. It has been non-functional for 200 years. The gate connects 15 vital trade routes. Its loss has cost the coalition billions and isolated several colony worlds. Dozens of engineering teams have attempted repairs, the crystalline alien continued. All have failed. The technology is partially organic, partially quantum mechanical, and partially something we do not understand at all. If Kim Tae-ho can repair it, the Council will view this as proof that humans possess unique problem-solving capabilities worth preserving and worth accommodating. Tae-ho felt his stomach drop. You want me to fix a piece of ancient technology that coalition experts could not figure out? That is impossible. Probably, the shrouded alien agreed. But humans seem to specialize in attempting impossible things. And if he fails? Nari asked sharply. Earth will be required to comply fully with Article 47 without further protest, Director Choi said grimly. Plus additional penalties for the disruption Kim Tae-ho caused. Additional penalties meaning what? Hana demanded. The director looked uncomfortable. Trade restrictions. Technology embargoes. Possible reduction of Earth's voting rights in the coalition. The room fell silent. Tae-ho looked around at the faces watching him. His career was fixing and building things. He was good at it. But repairing technology that had stumped the galaxy's best engineers for 2 centuries? That was not just difficult. It was absurd. How long do I have? He asked quietly. 30 days, the crystalline alien said. The Nexus Gate is located at Junction Station 7. You may bring assistance, but the coalition will not provide additional help. Succeed or fail based on your own merits. After the officials left, Taiho sat on his small couch with his head in his hands. Mochi jumped into his lap and meowed questioningly. He petted her absently, his mind racing through impossible calculations. "You cannot do this alone," Nari said, breaking the silence. "I cannot do it at all," Taiho replied honestly. "Ancient alien technology that nobody understands?" "I barely understand current alien technology. This is insane." "Then we make it less insane," Hana said. She had her tablet out and was already taking notes. "Break the problem into smaller parts." "What do you need?" "I need to understand what I am working with," Taiho said. "That means research, access to all the previous attempts and why they failed. Detailed scans of the Nexus structure, everything." "I can help with that," Hana said immediately. "I have contacts who specialize in acquiring difficult-to-access information. Some of them are not entirely legal, but they are effective." "I can analyze the biological components," Yuna offered. "If the technology is partially organic, my background in biology might be useful. I have studied some very strange life forms on Verdantis." Nari stood up with military decisiveness. "I will coordinate logistics. 30 days is not much time. We need a plan, schedules, and contingencies. This will be like a military campaign. We must be organized and efficient." Taiho looked at them in surprise. "You want to help me? This is not your problem. If I fail, Earth suffers, but your worlds will be fine." "Did you miss the part where we publicly defied our own governments at the hearing?" Hana asked dryly. "We are in this now whether we like it or not. Besides," Nari added, "I do not abandon my team in the middle of a mission. That would be dishonorable," Yuna nodded. "And you have been kind to me since I arrived. I want to return that kindness. Plus, if this works, maybe the Coalition will change other unfair laws too, laws that are hurting my world." Taiho felt something warm spreading in his chest. These 3 aliens, who had been strangers forced into his life just 2 months ago, were now offering to risk everything alongside him. "Okay," he said, straightening up. "Okay, we do this together, but we need to be smart about it. Hana, start gathering information. Every failed repair attempt, every scan, every theory. Yuna, research organic technology. See if there are examples in nature that might give us clues. Nari, create a work schedule and figure out what resources we need at Junction Station 7. "What will you do?" Nari asked. Taiho smiled grimly. "I am going to study every piece of ancient technology in Earth's museums, and I am going to remember something important. Humans did not survive by being the strongest or the smartest. We survived by being stubborn and creative. While alien species evolved perfect solutions for specific environments, humans learned to make do with whatever we had available. Maybe that is the key." Over the next week, their tiny apartment transformed into a research center. Papers covered every surface. Holographic displays floated in the air showing complex schematics. The walls were plastered with notes in 4 different languages. Mochi had claimed the top of a filing cabinet as her observation post and watched the chaos with typical feline superiority. Hana worked her contacts ruthlessly, acquiring information that should have been classified. She discovered that 17 different Coalition engineering teams had attempted repairs over the past 2 centuries. All had approached the problem by trying to restore the Nexus to its original specifications. All had failed at the same point. The organic components would not bond properly with the quantum mechanical systems. Yuna spent long hours studying biological technology. She found examples of natural systems that somehow interfaced with non-biological structures. Certain plants on her homeworld could grow into and merge with metal. Some deep-sea creatures on Nari's world produced bioelectric fields that could manipulate electronic systems. Nari created schedules, budgets, and contingency plans. She contacted Junction Station 7 to arrange workspace and materials. She coordinated with Earth officials to secure funding and transportation. She turned the chaotic research effort into an organized campaign. Taiho studied everything he could find about ancient civilizations and their technology. He learned that the extinct species that built the Nexus Gate, called the Precursors, had a completely different understanding of physics. They saw technology not as separate from nature, but as an extension of it. Their machines were not built but grown, not programmed but taught. It was a fascinating philosophy, but it did not solve the practical problem of how to fix a broken gate. 2 weeks into their preparations, they hit their first major obstacle. One of the Coalition officials who had visited earlier returned with bad news. The Council has reviewed your research requests, he said apologetically. They are concerned that you are gathering too much sensitive information. Several of your data acquisitions have been flagged as potential security violations. You need to stop immediately or face criminal charges. That is ridiculous, Hana exploded. How are we supposed to fix their problem without access to information? I am merely delivering the message, the official said. The Council is nervous. Your testimony created significant political upheaval. Some factions want you to fail. They are creating obstacles. After he left, the four of them sat in frustrated silence. They want us to fail, Yuna said quietly. They gave us an impossible task and now they are making it even harder. Classic bureaucratic sabotage, Hana muttered. Make demands, then remove the tools needed to meet those demands. I have seen this in business many times. So what do we do? Taiho asked. Nari smiled, a rare expression that looked slightly dangerous. We do what Mill Junction Station 7 was nothing like Taiho had imagined. The station floated in deep space between star systems. A massive structure built from materials that seemed to shift and change color as he looked at them. Thousands of ships docked at various ports, representing hundreds of alien species from across the coalition. The Nexus Gate itself was at the center of the station, a ring structure over 3 kilometers in diameter. It hung in space like a giant eye, dark and lifeless. Taiho could see scorch marks and damaged sections where previous repair attempts had gone wrong. The scale of it was overwhelming. That is what we are supposed to fix? Yuna whispered, her leaf-like hair trembling with anxiety. Apparently, Hana said. Though even her usual confidence seemed shaken, Nari studied the gate with tactical precision. The structure is more damaged than the reports indicated. Several sections show stress fractures. The previous teams may have caused additional harm. They were given a workspace on the station, a large bay with equipment and tools from dozens of different species. Coalition observers were positioned nearby to monitor their progress. News crews from across the galaxy had already set up cameras. The entire galaxy was watching to see if the humans could succeed where 200 years of coalition experts had failed. No pressure at all. The first 3 days were spent just examining the gate. Taiho and his team used scanning equipment to map every centimeter of the massive structure. Yuna collected samples of the organic components. Nari analyzed the power distribution systems. Hana organized their findings into a comprehensive database. What they discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The Nexus Gate was not just technology. It was a hybrid of organic and inorganic systems working in perfect harmony. Or at least it had been. Now the organic parts were dying, withering like plants without water. The quantum mechanical systems were destabilized, flickering in and out of phase. And something else, something Taiho could not quite identify, was simply missing. It is like a living organism that is sick, Yuna explained during their evening meeting. The organic parts need the mechanical parts to survive, and the mechanical parts need the organic components to function. They are completely dependent on each other. The previous teams tried to replace the organic components with artificial substitutes, Hana added, reviewing old reports. Every attempt failed. The artificial materials simply could not bond with the quantum systems. And attempts to stabilize the quantum systems damaged the organic parts further, Nari continued. Each repair attempt made the problem worse. Taiho stared at their data, feeling frustration build. They were missing something fundamental. The precursors had built this gate to function seamlessly for thousands of years. What did they understand that nobody else did? On the 5th day, Taiho had a breakthrough, or possibly a breakdown, he was not entirely sure which. He was staring at scans of the gate's core when everything suddenly clicked into place. He saw not individual systems, but a single integrated whole. The gate was not a machine with organic parts. It was not a living thing with mechanical parts. It was both at once, neither separate nor combined, but something entirely different. It is alive, he said suddenly, startling the others who were working nearby. What? Nari asked. The gate. It is alive. Not like a plant or animal, but alive in its own way. The precursors did not build a machine that uses organic parts. They grew a living system that happens to function as a gate. Yuna's eyes widened. That makes sense. In my research, I found that the organic components show growth patterns, not construction patterns. They developed, they were not assembled. So the gate is not broken, Taiho continued, his mind racing. It is dying, and you cannot fix something that is dying by replacing parts. You need to heal it. How do you heal a 3-kilometer quantum mechanical organism? Hana asked skeptically. I have no idea, Taiho admitted. But at least now we are asking the right question. They spent the next week researching how living systems heal and recover. Yuna became the team's most valuable member during this phase. She understood biological processes in ways that Taiho never could. She explained how living things respond to damage, how they regenerate, how they adapt, how they survive. The gate needs 3 things to heal, Yuna said during a presentation to the team. First, it needs proper nutrients. The organic components are starving. Second, it needs the damaged sections removed so they do not poison the healthy parts. Third, it needs stimulation to encourage regrowth. How do we provide nutrients to a quantum mechanical organism? Nari asked practically. We adapt, Taiho said. We find equivalence. What does the organic part need? Energy. What provides energy to living things? Food, light, chemical reactions. What does the mechanical part need? Power. The quantum systems need specific energy wavelengths to remain stable. So we need to create a hybrid power source, Hana said slowly, something that feeds both aspects of the gate simultaneously. Exactly, and we need to do it without causing more damage. Creating the hybrid power source took another 10 days and required combining technologies from 5 different species. Taiho designed the core system using human engineering principles, practical, adaptable, built with redundancies. Nari contributed Thalassian military power technology that was incredibly efficient. Hana acquired rare materials from Pyranus merchants. Yuna developed a biological interface using techniques from Verdantis. The result was something that none of them could have created alone. A power system that produced both standard electrical energy and biocompatible nutrients in the exact ratios the gate needed. It looked strange, half machine, half garden, but the scans showed it should work, should being the critical word. Testing the power source required connecting it directly to the gate. One mistake could destroy the entire structure. Coalition observers insisted on multiple safety checks. News crews positioned themselves to get the best angles. Betting pools formed across the station about whether the humans would succeed or cause a catastrophic failure. Taiho stood in the workspace, looking at the power system they had built. His hands were shaking. Second thoughts, Nari asked quietly. Third and fourth thoughts, Taiho admitted. What if I am wrong? What if this makes everything worse? Then we adapt again, Nari said firmly. That is what your species does, correct? You try, you fail, you try again differently. It is inefficient but effective. Very inspiring, Hana said dryly. Can we get on with the potentially catastrophic experiment now? The power system was transported to the gate in a specialized cargo pod. Connecting it required someone to go outside the station in a spacewalk. Taiho volunteered immediately. Absolutely not, Nari said. I have space combat training. I should go. The connection requires precise mechanical work, Taiho argued. I am the only one qualified. The biological interface needs monitoring, Yuna added quietly. I should be there too. They argued for 20 minutes before reaching a compromise. All 4 of them would go. Taiho would handle the mechanical connections. Yuna would monitor the biological interface. Nari would manage the power systems, and Hana would coordinate communications with the station. Together as always. The spacewalk was terrifying and beautiful, floating in the void between stars, wearing a spacesuit that felt far too fragile. Taiho worked to connect the power system to the gate's core. Yuna floated beside him, her leaf-like hair somehow still rustling even in the vacuum of space. Nari moved with military precision, checking and rechecking every connection. Hana's voice came through their communication channels, providing constant updates and encouragement. Connection point 1 secure, Taiho reported, his voice shaking slightly. Biological interface responding normally, Yuna added. No rejection symptoms and power flow stable, Nari confirmed. Ready for activation, this was the moment. Taiho looked at the connection he had just made. Human engineering bridging ancient alien technology. It represented everything they had worked for, everything they had learned together. If it failed, Earth would face severe consequences. If it succeeded, everything might change. Activating power system, Taiho said. In 3, 2, 1, he triggered the activation sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the gate began to glow. Faintly at first, just a soft luminescence along the organic sections, then brighter. The withered parts started to shift, responding to the energy flowing through them. The quantum systems flickered, stabilized. then began operating in patterns Taiho had never seen before. "It is working," Yuna whispered in awe. "The organic components are regenerating. Look at the growth rate." The gate continued brightening. Colors swirled across its surface, blues, greens, purples, colors that did not have names in any human language. The massive ring structure began to hum with power. Energy crackled along the damaged sections, and impossibly the cracks began to close. Then something went wrong. The power levels spiked suddenly, far beyond safe parameters. Alarms screamed through their communication channels. "The gate is drawing too much power," Hana shouted. "It is exceeding the power system's capacity." "It is not drawing power," Yuna said, staring at her readings. "It is healing too fast. The biological components are overgrowing. If we do not slow the process, they will strangle the mechanical systems." Taiho's mind raced. They needed to reduce the biological growth raw. The Coalition Council chambers were even more intimidating than before. Taiho stood in the same spot where he had given his defiant testimony weeks ago, but everything felt different now. Then he had been angry and desperate. Now he was tired but hopeful. The chamber was packed with observers from across the galaxy. News drones floated everywhere, broadcasting to billions of viewers. Earth's representatives sat in their designated section, looking nervous. Taiho's mother was there too. She had insisted on coming despite the long journey from Earth to the Coalition headquarters. Nari, Hana, and Yuna stood beside him. They were not required to be there, but they had refused to let him face the council alone. Again. The chairman's voice echoed through the chamber. "Kim Taiho, you have completed the challenge set before you. The Nexus Gate is operational for the first time in 200 years. This is a remarkable achievement that has shocked the Coalition's scientific community." Taiho noticed the chairman did not sound particularly happy about being shocked. However, the chairman continued, "The council must now address the larger matter. Your initial testimony challenged Article 47 of the Integration Treaty. You claimed the law was unjust and demanded reforms. The question before us now is whether your success in repairing the gate validates your objections, or whether you have simply demonstrated competence while avoiding the real issue of treaty compliance." A council member from a species Taiho did not recognize spoke up. "The human succeeded in a technical challenge. This does not give him authority to dictate coalition law. Earth signed the treaty. Earth must honor it." Another council member countered immediately. "The repair of the Nexus Gate required unprecedented cooperation between species. The humans worked with their bonding partners voluntarily. This suggests their model of chosen cooperation may have merit." The debate continued for over an hour. Some council members praised the repair. Others dismissed it as irrelevant to the legal question. Some argued that humans had proven themselves valuable. Others insisted that one success did not excuse treaty violations. Taiho listened to aliens arguing about his life, his species, his future. He felt anger rising but pushed it down. Getting emotional would not help. Finally, the chairman called for silence. "Kim Taiho, you will now address the council. Speak carefully. Your words will determine Earth's future relationship with the Coalition." Taiho took a deep breath and stepped forward. He had prepared a speech, carefully written with input from diplomats and lawyers. But looking at the council members staring down at him, he decided to ignore it. Prepared speeches had not worked before. Honesty had. "Honored council members," he began. "I am just an engineer. I fix things. That is what I do. When the Nexus Gate was broken, I looked at it like any other broken machine. I tried to understand what was wrong and how to fix it." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "What I learned is that the gate was not broken because of mechanical failure. It was dying because it had lost balance. The organic and mechanical parts needed each other, but they also needed regulation. They needed an ecosystem, not just a machine." Some council members leaned forward with interest. "The same is true for the Coalition," Taiho continued. "You have hundreds of species trying to work together. But if you force cooperation, you create imbalance. Like the gate trying to heal too fast, forced integration causes more problems than it solves." "Are you comparing the Coalition to a broken machine?" a council member asked sharply. "No," Taiho said carefully. "I am saying that healthy systems, whether biological, mechanical, or social, need balance. They need different parts working together by choice, regulating each other naturally. Article 47 tries to force that balance artificially. It does not work. We proved that there is a better way. He gestured to Nari, Hana, and Yuna. These three became my partners because of a law. But they became my friends because we chose to work together. We chose to respect each other. We chose to combine our different strengths. That choice made all the difference. Without it, we never could have repaired the gate. The chairman spoke again.
So you argue that Article 47 should be abolished entirely?
I argue it should be changed, Tejo said. Make it voluntary. Offer incentives for interspecies cooperation instead of punishments for refusal. Let people choose their partners. Trust that when given freedom, people will make good choices. Not always, maybe, but more often than when they are forced. A different council member spoke, her voice thoughtful. The voluntary approach has risks. Species in need of genetic assistance might not receive it. Colony worlds might remain isolated. The integration you propose could take generations instead of years. Maybe, Tejo admitted, but forced integration is not really integration at all. It is just compliance. And compliance without belief is fragile. It breaks the moment pressure is released. He looked directly at the council. Humans have a saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. You can force people together, but you cannot force them to cooperate genuinely. Real cooperation, real friendship, real integration. These things take time and choice. There are no shortcuts. The chamber fell silent. Tejo wondered if he had said too much, been too bold again. But he had spoken his truth. That was all he could do. The chairman consulted with other council members in a language Tejo's translator could not interpret. The discussion lasted 10 minutes while everyone waited with increasing tension. Finally, the chairman spoke. The council has reached a decision. Article 47 of the Integration Treaty will be suspended immediately pending complete revision. A new committee will be formed to create alternative integration protocols based on voluntary cooperation, rather than mandatory requirements. The chamber erupted in noise. Some people cheered. Others protested loudly. News drones swarmed to get better angles. Earth's representatives were hugging each other and crying. But the chairman was not finished. Furthermore, all existing bonding arrangements under Article 47 will be reviewed. Individuals currently bound by the law will be given the choice to continue their arrangements voluntarily or to separate without penalty. This choice must be free without coercion from any party. Tejo felt his heart stop. The choice. They would all have the choice now. He turned to look at Nari, Hana, and Yuna. They were staring back at him with expressions he could not quite read. The chairman continued. Kim Tejo and his bonding partners will be appointed as special consultants to the Integration Committee. Their experience will guide the new protocols. This hearing is concluded. The next few hours were chaos. Officials wanted statements. News organizations wanted interviews. Earth's government wanted to thank him personally. His mother wanted to feed him and cry on his shoulder simultaneously. Through it all, Tejo kept thinking about the chairman's words. They could separate now. No penalties. No consequences. Each of them could return to their home worlds, their previous lives. Everything could go back to normal. But what was normal anymore? It was late evening before Tejo and his three companions finally made it back to their temporary quarters near the council building. They sat in the small room, exhausted and overwhelmed. So, Hana said finally, we have a choice now. We can continue this arrangement or end it. What does everyone want to do? The question hung in the air like smoke. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Nari broke the silence. I have received a message from the Thalassian Naval Command. They are offering me a position as commander. It is a significant promotion. I would lead an entire battle group. That is wonderful, Yuna said quietly. You have worked so hard for that. Yes, Nari agreed. It is everything I thought I wanted. She paused. But accepting means returning to Thalassia permanently. It means leaving this team. Hana spoke next. My family contacted me. The success with the Nexus Gate has brought many business opportunities. Major corporations want to hire me. I could return to Pyranus as a wealthy merchant. My family's debts would be completely paid. You should take those opportunities, Tejo said, trying to sound supportive despite the sinking feeling in his chest. You deserve success. I do, Hana agreed with typical bluntness. I have earned it. But those opportunities exist on Piranus, not here, not with you three. Yuna spoke last, her voice barely above a whisper. The genetic samples we collected have been sent to Verdantis. Combined with samples from other bonding arrangements, They should be enough to save my world from the blight. The scientists say my people will survive now. Tears formed in her green eyes. I accomplished what I came here to do. I can go home. That is wonderful news, Taiho said, genuinely happy for her even as his heart broke a little. Your world will live because of you. Yes, Yuna said, but going home means leaving you. All of you, and I do not know if I want to do that. Taiho realized it was his turn. I have been offered a position leading the new Earth Coalition Technology Exchange Program. It is a huge promotion with an amazing salary. I would help design the future of human-alien cooperation. He smiled sadly. It is my dream job. Everything I have worked toward. So we all have perfect reasons to separate, Hana said. Perfect opportunities waiting. We can end this arrangement with no regrets. Except, Nari said slowly, I find I do have regrets.